The grand hall was alive with whispers and soft footsteps, yet a thick tension hung in the air, making it feel as though time itself had paused. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above polished marble floors, casting reflections that danced across the walls lined with towering mirrors. The guests, dressed in their finest, sat frozen in anticipation, each one wondering which daughter would be chosen by Duke Alexander Hawthorne. Everyone assumed it was obvious. Everyone assumed the Duke would select Olivia Whitman, the elder daughter. Olivia's beauty, poise, and confidence had been celebrated at every social gathering, every ball, every high society luncheon. Her smile was effortless, her charm rehearsed yet magnetic, and her presence commanded admiration without effort. Yet, quietly standing near the edge of the room, almost invisible to crowd, was Emily Whitman, the younger daughter. Soft-spoken and unassuming, she had learned long ago that people often didn't notice those who didn't demand attention. She carried herself with dignity, yet her quiet confidence was subtle, almost hidden from the world. Emily had spent her life observing the world, observing people, observing how admiration and attention flowed to those who knew how to claim it. She knew the weight of invisibility. She understood that the world often rewarded appearance over substance, and she had long accepted her place in the shadows. But beneath her calm exterior was a mind sharp as a blade and a heart that felt deeply, quietly, and honestly. Their father, Richard Whitman, was a man deeply invested in reputation and status. He believed success was something to be displayed, measured, and admired. Every detail of the Whitman estate reflected this. The polished floors, the carefully arranged flowers, the crystal glasses set at precise angles. Richard was proud, meticulous, and confident, convinced that Olivia's beauty and charm would secure the perfect alliance with the Duke. He could not imagine any scenario in which Emily, with her quiet demeanor and understated grace, would even be considered. As the Duke's arrival approached, the house buzzed with preparation. Servants moved swiftly, adjusting curtains, polishing silver, and rehearsing polite greetings. Guests whispered predictions under their breath, each one expressing certainty that Olivia's elegance and poise would win the day. Emily watched silently, her hands folded, her expression calm, her eyes quietly scanning the hall. She didn't expect attention. She didn't seek it. She had learned that in this world, silence was safer than hope. Yet even now, a flicker of curiosity stirred within her, a small, quiet hope that perhaps things could be different. When Duke Alexander Hawthorne finally entered, the room collectively held its breath. Alexander was known not just for his wealth, but for his principles and discernment. He carried himself with quiet authority, his gaze sharp yet observant. Unlike many in high society, Alexander did not simply accept the surface. He looked deeper, searching for substance beneath the polished exteriors. His reputation for fairness and insight had spread far and wide, and his presence now commanded attention without arrogance. The moment he stepped into the hall, all eyes instinctively turned to Olivia. Her radiant smile, perfectly composed posture, and confident greeting were exactly what everyone expected. Richard's pride swelled as he gestured toward his eldest daughter, announcing with a flourish, "Take the pretty one." The phrase echoed in the hall like a decree. It was clear, it was expected, and it seemed, to everyone present, that the outcome was certain. Yet Alexander's eyes lingered elsewhere. He noticed Emily, standing slightly apart from the crowd. Her hands were folded in front of her, her gaze steady but gentle. She was not shrinking away, nor was she trying to shine. There was a stillness about her that spoke of self-awareness, quiet strength, and inner dignity. Alexander's curiosity was piqued. He had seen countless faces polished for admiration, countless smiles perfected for social approval, yet this quiet presence seemed untouched by performance. There was honesty in Emily that could not be faked, a sincerity that radiated from her even in the silence. As the guests murmured among themselves, speculating and predicting the outcome, Alexander's attention remained on Emily. He did not yet know what he would decide, but something in that moment told him that appearances were not enough. There was more to consider, more to see, more to understand. And as the first steps of this historic meeting unfolded, it became clear that the most important choice of the day might defy all expectations. If you believe that kindness and integrity matter more than appearances, and that true worth often goes unnoticed, take a moment to subscribe to Moment of Humanity. Alexander's quiet observation seemed to echo through the room, though no one heard him say it aloud. For Emily, it was just the beginning of a day that would change everything, forever. The moment the Duke entered, the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Every whispered prediction, every polite smile, every glance of anticipation pointed toward Olivia Whitman. Her elegance, her charm, and the effortless way she drew attention made her the obvious choice in everyone's eyes. Richard Whitman's pride swelled as he straightened his jacket and subtly gestured to his eldest daughter. "Take the pretty one," he murmured almost proudly, as if the decree alone could determine the future. Yet, Emily Whitman remained quietly at the edge of the room. She watched the preparations, the hushed speculations, and the carefully crafted poses of the guests. Her heart beat steadily, not from excitement, but from a strange mix of curiosity and cautious hope. She had spent her life understanding the ways of the world, learning that attention often went to the loudest and most visible, while substance went unnoticed. Emily knew that her calm nature, her humility, and her quiet strength would rarely be acknowledged by those who judged only appearances. She remembered the countless times she had been overlooked, at social gatherings, at school, even within her own family. Olivia's brilliance, beauty, and social confidence always took center stage, while Emily faded into the background, unnoticed and uncelebrated. Yet this invisibility had taught her something invaluable: patience, observation, and the power of seeing the world clearly without seeking approval. Emily's eyes quietly followed the Duke as he moved through the room, noticing everything: the way staff coordinated seamlessly, the subtle tension in the guests' expressions, the faint pride in her father's posture. She noticed how appearances were meticulously crafted, polished to perfection, and yet hollow without true meaning. Richard Whitman was oblivious to his youngest daughter's inner world. He believed outward perfection and social standing defined success. Every arrangement, every compliment, every subtle nudge toward Olivia reinforced the idea that she was the only daughter worth noticing. "Everything must be perfect," he whispered under his breath as he adjusted the table centerpiece, eyes darting to Olivia. "The Duke must see our best." Meanwhile, the guests murmured among themselves. Predictions flowed like a silent river. "Of course he'll choose Olivia," one whispered. "She is radiant, refined, exactly what the Duke expects." Another added, "Emily? She's sweet. Yes, but she is barely noticed. Surely the choice is clear." Each whisper seemed to reinforce the invisible barrier between Emily and recognition. Yet, Emily listened silently. She did not respond. She did not seek to defend herself. She knew the world often only noticed the obvious. But Emily also knew something else, something most overlooked. While Olivia's confidence and charm were evident, Emily's quiet composure, thoughtfulness, and ability to truly observe and understand the people around her gave her a depth no polished smile could match. She could see beyond appearances, notice subtle intentions, and understand emotions that others failed to grasp. Her mind worked quietly but effectively, and her heart had learned to care deeply, even when it went unseen. As the Duke approached, he did not focus on the predictable choice. Alexander Hawthorne's reputation was built on discernment, insight, and the rare ability to see the essence of a person beyond the surface. He had attended countless events, observed countless faces trained to charm and impress, and learned that performance often overshadowed reality. Yet something about Emily caught his attention immediately. She was not trying to shine, yet there was an authenticity about her presence that radiated quietly. Her eyes were calm, thoughtful, and steady, and her posture conveyed confidence without arrogance. The tension in the room grew. Every whispered conversation, every careful glance toward Olivia, every subtle nod of Richard Whitman's approval seemed to hang in the air like a heavy curtain. Guests unconsciously shifted in their seats, some leaning in, eager to see the choice made. The Duke's gaze, however, remained fixed on Emily, as if silently asking the question, who truly matters? Who embodies more than what everyone sees? Emily's inner thoughts swirled. She had spent years believing that recognition might never come, that being overlooked was her fate. Yet now, she felt a flicker of hope, a quiet, cautious optimism that perhaps, just perhaps, someone might see her for who she really was. She did not know how the Duke would choose, or what the outcome would be, but she understood that appearances were often deceptive, and true worth was rarely displayed openly. As Richard prepared to gesture toward Olivia, certain of a victory, the room waited. The Duke's decision would not only define the evening, but also quietly challenge every assumption about visibility, admiration, and the nature of true recognition. Emily, standing silently, felt the weight of expectation and the strange lightness of possibility mingling together. This moment was about to change everything, forever. If you believe true work goes beyond appearances, and that kindness and integrity matter more than recognition, subscribe to Moment of Humanity to follow stories that inspire hearts everywhere. The hall was tense, every guest waiting for the moment that seemed preordained. Olivia Whitman stood poised, radiant as ever, her smile perfectly timed, her posture elegant. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind countless times, confident that all eyes, and the Duke, would fall on her. Richard Whitman, her father, exuded pride. Every detail had been orchestrated for her to shine, every glance of the Duke to affirm her worth. To everyone, the choice was already made. Yet Duke Alexander Hawthorne's eyes wandered, not to Olivia, but to the quiet figure standing apart. Emily Whitman, serene yet alert, neither hiding in the shadows nor demanding attention, observed the room with gentle composure. Alexander had spent years learning to read people, to discern substance beneath charm, sincerity beneath performance. He had watched countless polished smiles, countless gestures designed to impress. But in Emily, there was something rare, authenticity untouched by expectation, a presence untainted by the desire to please. The Duke's gaze lingered on her longer than expected. He noticed subtle things others overlooked. The way Emily's hands rested calmly in front of her, the quiet steadiness in her eyes, the humility woven naturally into her posture. She did not need validation, yet she exuded confidence. Her essence, unspoken yet profound, spoke volumes. Alexander felt an unexpected clarity, a sudden recognition that true value is often invisible to the world. Richard Whitman, however, remained oblivious. He leaned slightly forward, ready to announce Olivia as a perfect match. He whispered softly to a nearby guest, "She is flawless." Alexander will have no choice but to agree. The whole murmured in agreement, nods and whispers echoing the father's certainty. Every eye was on Olivia, every mind convinced that Emily's quiet presence was irrelevant, as if the room itself had dismissed her. Then came the moment that would shift everything. Alexander Hawthorne stepped forward, his calm authority drawing every eye. The room seemed to hold its collective breath. He turned to Richard Whitman, then slowly looked at both daughters. His words, measured and deliberate, filled the hall. "I have observed the qualities of both young women. Olivia Whitman is exceptional, as expected, her elegance and charm undeniable. But in this moment, I see something else, something deeper, something rare. It is Emily Whitman whose character, poise, and genuine nature reflect qualities that cannot be rehearsed or displayed. She is the one I choose." A ripple of stunned silence swept through the hall. Gasp, whispered astonishment, and the faint shuffle of shifting feet filled the room. Richard Whitman's confident posture faltered. His carefully planned evening, his assumed victory, suddenly felt precarious. Olivia, ever composed, blinked, a flicker of surprise crossing her face before her smile returned, though it seemed slightly forced, uncertain. Emily, meanwhile, felt time slow. Her heart raced, not with triumph, but disbelief, confusion, and an unfamiliar warmth that grew quietly in her chest. The guests murmured among themselves, disbelief and curiosity mixing. No one had expected this. The choice defied every assumption, every expectation, every carefully constructed social prediction. Whispers grew louder, questions forming silently on every lip. Why Emily? Why not Olivia? Did the Duke truly see something no one else noticed? Emily's mind whirled. She had never imagined such attention, never believed the day would come when she would be the one noticed, the one chosen. Yet, as Alexander's steady gaze met Hayes, a sense of calm began to grow. He had not chosen her to reward or rescue. He had recognized her, truly, wholly, for who she was. Every small gesture, every quiet habit, every overlooked talent she had nurtured in silence was acknowledged in that single choice. Richard Whitman, proud and meticulous, struggled to hide the disappointment flickering across his face. Guests shifted in their seats, some skeptical, some impressed, but all intrigued. Olivia's flawless composure slowly returned, yet even she could not ignore the truth of Alexander's decision. Emily, once invisible, now stood at the center of attention, not because she had sought it, but because she had earned it in the quietest, most authentic way possible. As the realization settled in, Emily felt a strange mix of emotions. Gratitude, yes, but also the unexpected turn of events. She had spent her life in the shadows, believing that recognition would rarely come. Yet here it was, offered not for appearance or performance, but for honesty, integrity, and authenticity. The room continued to buzz, but Emily felt a deep internal quiet, a confidence born not of admiration, but of being truly seen. If you believe that true worth goes beyond appearances, and that recognition comes to those who remain authentic, join Moment to Humanity and follow stories that inspire hearts everywhere. A quiet thought echoed, as if the story itself spoke directly to every viewer witnessing Emily's unprecedented moment. The days following the Duke's unexpected choice were filled with whispers, speculation, and quiet astonishment. The estate, which had once seemed governed by the predictable rhythms of appearances and admiration, now hummed with curiosity. Staff members who had long noticed Emily's kindness and diligence suddenly found themselves watching as others acknowledged her subtle talents. Conversations once filled with polite indifference now carried a tone of admiration and intrigue. For Emily, the sudden attention was both overwhelming and surreal. She had spent years in the background, cultivating patience, understanding, and quiet strength. Yet now, the world had shifted, and she was no longer invisible. She felt the weight of judgment pressing from all directions, guests scrutinizing her every move, family members processing their surprise, even Olivia, who had always been celebrated, now observing her younger sister with a mix of curiosity and unexpected humility. But with this attention came clarity. Emily realized that being overlooked had never been a disadvantage. It had been a quiet teacher. In the shadows, she had cultivated self-awareness, empathy, and resilience, skills that could never be displayed in a smile or a practiced gesture. She now understood that true strength comes not from being seen, but from remaining true to oneself even when no one notices. Duke Alexander, meanwhile, continued to observe and engage with Emily, taking time to know her beyond what the eyes could see. He learned of her love for books, her compassion for those working quietly behind the scenes, and her thoughtful reflections on life. Emily, in turn, saw a man whose authority came not from display or pride, but from responsibility and understanding. Their conversations, at first tentative, gradually deepened into mutual respect, admiration, and a connection built on authenticity rather than expectation. Richard Whitman struggled silently with the shift. His careful plans, the image of success he had cultivated through Olivia, had been challenged in a single moment. Society's expectations loomed heavy, and whispers continued to follow Emily as she moved through the estate. Yet even Richard could not ignore the undeniable truth. His younger daughter had been recognized for her integrity, her character, and her quiet strength. It was a recognition that no outward beauty, polished charm, or rehearsed smile could ever earn. Olivia, too, began to see things differently. She had lived her life accustomed to admiration and the constant validation of others. Watching Emily navigate her new reality with grace and humility, she slowly realized that worth was not measured by the applause one receives, but by the sincerity of one's actions and the depth of one's character. Olivia's respect for her sister grew, and a quiet bond began to form, built not on competition, but on understanding. Emily's growth was subtle, yet profound. She walked through the estate with a newfound confidence, one that did not shout or demand recognition, but radiated from a place of inner truth. She learned to accept attention not as a reward, but as a reflection of her own authenticity. Every conversation, every acknowledgement, became a gentle reminder that remaining true to oneself, even when unnoticed, eventually carries its own reward. Society, too, began to shift in perception. Guests who had once dismissed Emily found themselves unexpectedly impressed by her insight, her ability to listen, and the quiet dignity she carried. Staff members who had always admired her discreetly now felt seen themselves, touched by a genuine kindness. The estate, which had long measured value by outward perfection, slowly began to recognize the profound power of authenticity. Amid these changes, Emily and Duke Alexander's bond deepened. Their relationship was not defined by expectation or tradition, but by understanding, respect, and shared values. It was a partnership rooted in the recognition of character, a lesson to everyone who witnessed it. True worth is often invisible to the casual observer, but unmistakable to those who look closely. And as the days passed, Emily began to understand a vital truth. Being chosen was not a reward for compliance with societal expectations, nor was it a gift. It was a recognition of her inner strength, her kindness, and the quiet courage that had allowed her to remain authentic in a world that often rewarded performance over sincerity. If you believe in the quiet power of authenticity, and that true worth is recognized by those who see beyond appearances, subscribe to Moment of Humanity. Let these stories remind us all that sometimes the most extraordinary qualities are the ones that remain hidden until someone chooses to notice. The day of the celebration arrived, marking the union that had taken everyone by surprise. The estate was adorned with vibrant flowers, shimmering light, and laughter echoing through the grand hall. Guests filled every corner, eager to witness the story that had already become a topic of whispered fascination. Emily Whitman, once unnoticed, now moved through the room with quiet confidence, her presence no longer overlooked but embraced. She had spent countless days learning the value of authenticity, of remaining true in the face of expectations. Every glance she received now reminded her not of vanity, but of the strength cultivated in the shadows. She walked with grace, acknowledging those who approached her with genuine curiosity, her heart steady and open. The Duke, Alexander Hawthorne, by her side, offered warmth, respect, and understanding, reflecting the bond that had grown through sincerity and shared values rather than superficial admiration. Richard Whitman observed silently, pride and humility mixing within him. His meticulously crafted plans, once assumed to guarantee Olivia's election, had been disrupted, yet he could not deny the outcome was extraordinary. He watched Emily navigate her newfound recognition with dignity and authenticity, realizing that his daughter's worth had always been beyond appearances. Society's expectations, though present, now seemed less imposing as Emily's quiet strength illuminated the room in ways no polished smile ever could. Olivia, ever poised and graceful, approached her younger sister with a mixture of curiosity, admiration, and newfound understanding. "Emily," she said softly, I never realized." Her words, simple yet sincere, spoke of respect earned and lessons learned. Emily smiled, a gentle warmth radiating from her, and responded, "It's not about being seen first, Olivia. It's about being real when no one is watching." In that moment, a bond formed that transcended rivalry, a connection built on understanding, shared growth, and mutual respect. Guests slowly began to grasp the significance of the Duke's choice. Conversations shifted from superficial admiration to discussions of character, integrity, and depth. People recognize that true worth is rarely loud or obvious, that the most extraordinary qualities are often invisible until someone takes the time to notice. Emily's journey became a living testament to this truth. Every act of kindness she had shown, every moment of patience and observation, had led her to be recognized not for appearance, but for essence. The Duke stood beside Emily, his presence steady and reassuring. He had chosen her not out of obligation or societal expectation, but because he saw what others often missed: her intelligence, her compassion, her quiet courage. Their partnership, now acknowledged publicly, reflected a deeper understanding of value, one built on substance rather than spectacle, sincerity rather than performance. As the celebration continued, Emily took a moment to reflect. She had been overlooked for so long, yet she had learned to remain steadfast in her principles. The recognition she now received was not a gift nor a reward, but an acknowledgement of the person she had always been. Every challenge, every ignored compliment, every silent observation had prepared her for this moment. She realized that rejection had never defined her. It had strengthened her, shaped her, and allowed her to shine when the world was ready to truly see her. The evening closed with a sense of quiet fulfillment. Guests left with a new understanding that appearances can be deceiving, and that true value often stands quietly, waiting for someone willing to see beyond the obvious. Emily and Alexander's story became a reminder that kindness, integrity, and authenticity are the qualities that endure long after the applause fades. If this story touched your heart, remember, true worth is recognized not by appearances, but by those who truly see. Like, share, and subscribe to Moment of Humanity to celebrate stories that inspire hearts and reveal the power of authenticity. Sometimes, the most powerful choice is not the one everyone expects, but the one that finally sees a person who was always there. Emily Whitman looked around, her gaze steady and serene. Gratitude filled her heart, not for triumph, but for the realization that she had remained herself through it all. Alexander Hawthorne stood beside her, a partner not in status or expectation, but in recognition of who she truly was. The story ended not with spectacle, but with a quiet power of authenticity, a lesson for all who witness it, and for everyone watching Moment of Humanity.